Hello again. I did a series a couple weeks ago, at least I started a series and got partway through it, on a favorite sub-genre of mine, and I wanted to pick that up. But before I get to the last two movies in that list, I wanted to talk about a few movies that did not make the list for various reasons. Again, these are movies which I would consider tragic sci-fi romances, films in which there's a sci-fi story element to it, but the core of the film is the relationship between the main couple, and things don't always end totally happily. In fact, I assure you, they do not. Not totally happy, anyway, maybe partly happy. Um, when I reviewed The Adjustment Bureau, I mentioned this because The Adjustment Bureau is a movie that could have qualified for this, but it doesn't because things generally work out quite well for the lead couple, Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. They come close to not working well, but I think the reshoots for the ending sort of steered them towards a fate that's a little bit nicer. So otherwise it would qualify, but it doesn't in this case. One thing I liked about that movie, though, was what I like to think of as the big freak-out scene, in which a character is informed of this extraordinary situation and she just can't handle it. In this case, it's a woman, and it was also the case in 50 First Dates, which is not technically a science fiction movie, but the brain malady, the memory malady that Drew Barrymore has, kind of works a little bit science fiction-y because it's very, very neat. She was in a car accident, and so she has brain damage and she has short-term memory loss, but it isn't like a few moments. She has like an entire day, and then that day is wiped away from her memory as she sleeps, and she wakes up in the next morning thinking it's the same day. She thinks it's the exact same day every single time she wakes up, her dad's birthday. And it's been over a year of her thinking that it's her dad's birthday every single morning. So Adam Sandler, is sweet on her, obviously, and he wants to be in a relationship with her, but the problem is every time he meets her, when the day begins, she doesn't know who he is. So he has to try to figure out a way around this. And what I liked about this movie is that obviously Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler have really good chemistry together. This movie and The Wedding Singer are two of Adam Sandler's best movies. But the other thing I liked about this movie is that there isn't some last-minute solution to her memory problem. It's not like she gets hit on the head again and suddenly her memory's fine, or she recalls everything, due to some emotional trauma. But right up to the end of the movie, and beyond, she still has this problem where she wakes up every morning. And in fact, the very last scene in the movie takes place several years after the bulk of the narrative takes place, and she wakes up and she doesn't know what's going on. She's in a strange place. She still thinks it's her dad's birthday from whatever year it was. And at that point, we're in the same position where she is, where we don't really know exactly what's going on. It's very bittersweet. I like that movie very much, and although technically it isn't science fiction, it sort of has the same kind of feel to it as some of these other films, so I included it here. Another film that I liked quite a bit, which definitely has science fiction elements and tragic elements, is a Tony Scott thriller called Deja Vu, which came out in 2006. This movie has Denzel Washington playing an ATF agent in New Orleans who is helping investigate a ferry bombing. And due to this new technology, they're able to actually send sort of this weird sort of space-time tunnel into the past, exactly 4 days into the past, to look around and see what's going on in the period prior to the bombing. Now, Denzel Washington, in his investigation, makes a connection between the bomber and a woman who was found murdered prior to the ferry exploding. And so they end up watching her to see if they can get clues as to who the bomber is, because they figured the bomber interacted with her in some way and eventually abducted her and killed her before the bombing. So they're watching her to see whether or not they can stop the guy. They can at least find the guy post-bomb. But eventually Denzel Washington convinces Val Kilmer, who is running the project, to send him back in time using this technology to try and stop the bombing in the first place, to try and stop the guy, to save the woman and all that stuff. And so there's a slight romantic element here, but it's just touched on briefly because they don't have a lot of time together. He meets her, he saves her, and then they rush off together to try and stop the bomb. So there's just like a hint of a potential romance there. So it really doesn't count as a romance movie, although there is this there was this element there, this sort of hint of it, but it doesn't really count. So I didn't include it on this list. Another film which is definitely tragic sci-fi and has just the slightest hint of romance is RoboCop, which came out in '87. Murphy, the cop who is gunned down in the line of duty and then is resurrected as a cyborg, had a wife and family. And so one of the things he's trying to piece together is what his life was like before he became a robot, before his memory was supposedly erased. He has this line in the movie, he says, "I can feel them, but I can't remember them. I can feel that there's someone I'm connected to, but I just don't have any information." And this pays off a little bit better in the sequel. They sort of get that storyline out of the way, unfortunately. It could have been, I would have appreciated more focus on it, but he ends up hanging around the house where his wife, when he was alive, lives, and she notices him and she starts complaining. And so when she demands to know what's going on with this guy, he takes off his mask and he shows her his face, and he says, well, "This isn't your husband's face. You know, they built it like this in order to honor him. It's like a tribute to officers killed in the line of duty." And you know, who knows whether she actually believes him or not, but that's sort of an element right there. Anyway, the original RoboCop really doesn't focus on that too much. It's mostly about him getting revenge on the guys who killed him originally, tracking down those guys and killed them. But it does have that tragic element to it. But it doesn't really qualify for the series. And finally, I wanted to mention the second Lara Croft movie, which is called Tomb Raider: The Cradle of Life. I don't really think this is a terribly good movie, but it does have some fantastical elements of it. They're looking for a device which apparently contains basically the device is Pandora's box. It's this artifact that supposedly contains the antimatter that helped create life at the beginning of time or something like that, something crazy like that. And so there's a weapons manufacturer that's trying to acquire this box so he can sell it and make tons and tons of money. And so she's trying to stop it. Now the thing with Lara Croft is that she's a bit like James Bond or Indiana Jones or any one of these characters who you know is not going to get killed during the course of the movie. Whatever problem she has to deal with, whatever things she has to save or bad guy she has to stop, you know that she's going to do it. You know, there's no suspense there, not for somebody like her, not for a character like her. But the thing in The Cradle of Life is that she recruits her former lover, who is an ex-IRA guy called Terry Sheridan, who's played by Gerard Butler, to help her on this mission. And they have a history. So the whole time they're on this mission, he keeps going, "So how about we give it another try when this is all over?" And she's just like, not happening. And so he ends up sticking with her throughout the whole adventure. But at the end, there's the question of whether or not they're going to end up together, and things unfortunately don't work out very well for them as a couple, at least. You know Lara Croft is going to go on. You know she's going to keep doing what she's doing and being healthy and not get killed, obviously. But they're not going to be a couple at the end, and so there's that, again, the possibility that they could have worked out if only things had gone differently. And so that's kind of a sad ending to that. So that almost qualifies as tragic sci-fi romance, except it's not really sci-fi, it's more like fantasy because of the whole Pandora's box thing. I'm going to do another couple of videos. I wanted to give a shout out to Purple Book Fairy, who is going to be doing, well, I don't know if she's going to be doing a video on Solaris, but she got Solaris because I had talked about it in an earlier video, so I'm glad that she is giving that movie a chance. I think she'll like that movie quite a bit. I'm going to be talking about two of my absolute favorite movies in this sub-genre, which is 12 Monkeys by Terry Gilliam with Bruce Willis and Madeline Stowe, and The Fly by David Cronenberg with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Two excellent movies, and I hope that you'll tune in for those. And don't forget, I have a contest going on right now. It's going on for about another week and a half, possibly two. I don't recall exactly. The 25th. The 25th is when it ends, Monday the 25th. So I hope that you will enter that. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye.